Here's another video for you. This one is coming from Daily Common Core Review, packet number 82. We're talking about fractions on a number line. Whenever you see a number line, I want you to just think it's like a bar, like we've seen when we're shading in parts. So I can just draw around my number line a bar, and that kind of just helps me understand what it is. It's divided up into equal parts. Now, I need to figure out for each tick mark what is going to be the numerator and what's going to be the denominator. First, I'm going to start with the denominator. And to find out my denominator, I'm going to count my swoops in a low voice. Because remember, the denominator is on the bottom. So get your low voice ready. I need to get lower. Okay, here we go. Count your swoops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I know my denominator for every point is going to be 8. So I can put an 8 here, an 8 here, 8, 8, 8, 8, and 8. Now I'm going to find my numerator by counting each one. And I'm going to count those in a high voice because my numerator is at the top. So here my first point would be 1/8, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and over here at 1 I would have 8 eighths, or 1. And my 0 over here would be 0/8. Don't forget to circle your holes, your 0 and 1, and these are all of the fractions that are in between 0 and 1. Okay, now I need to label each point. So it already did this one for me. It says 1/2 is D. So here is D right here. But this says 4/8. So I need to prove that 1/2 is an equivalent fraction to 4/8. So I can write 1/2, and I can change it into something over 8. So 2 times 4 equals 8. So I'll multiply by 4 over 4. 1 times 4 equals 4. 2 times 4 equals 8. So it does equal 4/8. So this is correct. Now I can easily label all of my ones that have a denominator of 8. So I'm going to circle all of those. Here's a denominator of 8. Here's a denominator of 8. Here's one 5/8, 1/8, and 3/8. And I can label those pretty easily. I look at 7/8. I'm going to find it on my number line. That's right here at point G. 8/8 is right here at point H. 5/8, I see it right here at point E. 3/4, oop, can't do that one. It doesn't have 8. We'll get back to that in a minute. 1/8 right here, A. And 3/8 is right here, that's C. So I was able to fill in most of those, but these other ones, like 1/4, I'm going to need to change the denominator into an equivalent fraction that has an 8 on the denominator. So if I have 1/4, and I'm trying to change it into something over 8, 4 times what equals 8? Well, 4 times 2 equals 8. So I multiply by 2 over 2, and I get 2/8. So now I can find 2/8, which is right here, and label this point B. Let's do the same thing for 3/4. I need to change the denominator into an 8. So 3/4 times what is going to get me something over 8. 4 times 2 equals 8, so I can multiply by 2 over 2. 3 times 2 is 6. 4 times 2 is 8. So now I look for 6/8 on my number line. 6/8 is right here at point F. There you go. Not so hard, was it? Alright, I want to show you how to do problems like you'll see on practice 11-5, number lines and equivalent fractions. I'm going to underline equivalent. That means equal or the same. The directions say write 2 fractions that name each point on the number line. So for 1, 2, and 3, I have 1 point, but it wants us to write 2 fractions. So that means I'm going to need to find an equivalent fraction. So the first thing I do, looking at number 1, is I'm going to circle my holes, 0 and 1. All of my tick marks are between 0 and 1. First, I'm going to find out my denominator by counting the swoops in a low denominator voice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I know my denominator is going to be 6. So I'll put over 6, over 6, over 6, all the way down the line. Now I can count my numerator in a high voice. Ready? This one is right here at 0, so that becomes a 0. Then I count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that makes sense because my last one at the 1 is 6 over 6, which I know is 1 whole. Okay, so now I know that the point is 2, 6. So I'm going to write that on my line. But don't forget, our directions say to write 2 fractions that name each point. That's only 1 fraction. So I know to make an equivalent fraction, the easiest, fastest thing I can do is to multiply by 2 over 2. So 2 times 2 is 4, 6 times 2 is 12. So an equivalent fraction to 2 6 would be 4/12. Let's try it again on number 2. First, circle the holes, 0 and 1. All of the numbers, all of the points on my number line are between 0 and 1. Now I'm going to count to find my denominator on the bottom in a low voice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So my denominator is going to be 10. So this time, there's a lot of points here. I'm just going to write it for my point because the directions don't tell me to care about all these other points. I just need this one. So I'm not going to waste my time by writing every single one. I am still going to count my numerator, but I'm only going to write it for the point that I need. So count with me in a high voice. Ready? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Don't forget to write it in. 9, 10. And that would make sense because that would make this 10 over 10, which would be equal to 1. So I know my point is at 8/10, but the directions say to write 2 fractions, I only have 1. So I'm going to take 8/10 to make an equivalent fraction. The easiest thing I can do is multiply by 2 over 2. 8 times 2 is 16. 10 times 2 is 20. And I get an equivalent fraction of 16/20. Let's do one more. Number 3. Circle your holes 0 and 1. Count to find out your denominator in a low voice. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to put my denominator, I'm just going to put it right at the point that is important to me, the one I care about. It's going to be over 4. Now I can count my numerator in a high voice. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And my point is 2/4. But I need 2 fractions, so I take 2/4. The easiest way to change it into an equivalent fraction is to multiply by 2 over 2. 2 times 2 equals 4. 4 times 2 equals 8. My equivalent fraction is 4/8. We're still looking at practice 11-5, but this time it's giving us 3 fractions that it wants us to put on a number line. We can still do this. We follow the same steps. Nothing changes. We circle our holes, 0 and 1. We find our denominator by counting our swoops in a low voice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So my denominator is going to be 6. So in every box I'm going to put over 6, over 6, over 6, and over 6. I can see here that this one isn't over 6, it's 1/2. So I'm going to come back to that later and check to make sure that I did it correctly. So let's go over and see what the fractions they want us to write on the number line is. The first one is 4/6. So I'm going to need to count. 0, 6 is right here. 1, 2, 6 would be right here. So now I put 4 6 on. Now I need to put 1 6. So I count again. 0 6 1 6 would be right there. Then finally 2 6. It's going to be after my 1 6. 2 6. And it's in red because for some reason that one is special and I didn't change my color. Okay, so I need to make sure that this makes sense though. I have 1 6, 2 6, then 1/2, the denominator changes, then 4 6, and then I know that this one here would be 5 6, but it didn't ask me to label that, so I really don't have to. But I need to make sure, does this 1/2 in the middle, does it make sense with the rest of my work? So I need to take 1/2 and I need to change it into a 6. So 1/2, 2 times what gets me to 6? Well, 2 times 3. So I need to multiply by 3 over 3. 1 times 3 equals 3. And I get 3 6. Now, let's check and see if that makes sense. 1 6, 2 6, 3 6. 4 6 and 5 6. So it does make sense. 1/2 equals 3 6. So I know I'm good. Looking at number 5, it wants me to put 5 6, 3 6, and 2/3 on my number line. Now I already see I have 2 fractions that have the same denominator and one that's different. So I'm going to have to do something to change that. But my steps don't change. I circle my holes, 0 and 1. All of my boxes are going to be my fractions. So I'm going to go ahead and count my denominator in a low voice. The denominator. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ooh, that's a funky looking line there. Let me fix that. Okay, so my denominator for all of these is going to be 6. So let's look at the ones it wants me to do. Remember, this is going to be 0 6, this is going to be 6 6, or 1 whole. So the first one it wants me to put on is 5 6. So I'm going to count up to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My 5 6 is going to go right there. Then it wants me to put on 3 6. So I count 1, 2, 3. 3 6 goes here. Then it wants me to put on 2/3. Well, my denominator is in sixths, so I'm going to have to change it. And I'm going to write down here 2/3 times, and I'm changing it to something over 6. 3 times what equals 6? 3 times 2 equals 6. So I can multiply by 2 over 2. 2 times 2 equals 4. So I know 2/3 is equal to 4 6. So I'm going to find the spot for 4 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. 6 is going to go right there. But really, it's not 4 6. It wants us to put 2/3. So I'm going to cross it out and write 2/3. So I put it in the way that they told us to, because we want to make it match. Now, they didn't tell us to put the other numbers on the number line, but we would just know that this is going to be 1 6, 2 6, and that fills it in. Alright, that's all I have for you. Good luck with those fractions and number lines. You're doing great.